It was all to do with like relationships, in particular, like romantic relationships, relationships with women. I find myself meeting someone, finding that it was passion and like progressing quite quickly at the start, and like I felt like I wanted that. They would respond well to it, and then probably rushing into then making that, official, and then going on a sort of a quite sharp incline, and then also a sharp decline, and then sort of finding that after a while, after quite a quick amount of time, like say this is probably over like a 9 month period, the relationships from beginning to end would last probably that long, but I would then feel quite avoidant. I wouldn't want to spend time with them. I probably started to shut down my communication, particularly after maybe like an argument. And so I think based on kind of my parents separated when I was quite young, and I witnessed their arguments, and in the lead up to that separation, there was like a lot of shouting, and so I always had this kind of thing in my head, like I don't argue, I don't do conflict, because I probably in my head thought it's the beginning of the end. And so whenever I saw conflict arise, I would just kind of like shut down, and it would almost be like the unraveling of it all. Where I'm at now is that I realize that actually that is just part of a healthy relationship, and that you need to have those disagreements. There's ways to handle them, and we talked a lot about responding rather than reacting. And that those are actually the moments that make a relationship kind of stronger over time. And I never gave my relationship that chance. So really, I was caught in a bit of a loop of getting into relationships. The same pattern would occur in terms of what happened along that timeline, and then it would probably end after 9 months. And it happened on 3 occasions. And I was like, okay, I'm noticing the pattern, and it's me, and I need to do something about it. Well, I think I tried to like logically. I had been recommended a book called, I don't know if it's called like maybe called Attachment or something like that. It's a book that describes, avoidant, anxious, and then I think the one in the middle is stable. And so I kind of like pursued it through a logical lens and was like, I'm going to read this book, and I was like, oh, I'm classically avoidant. That's what it is. It's just kind of like who I am, and there's some things here I resonate with. And whilst that maybe is partly true, I think that through some of the work that we did in the course, there's probably a psychological or mental side to it, a logical side to it. There's also like actually like the emotions stored in your body from stuff that's happened in your past and from your childhood, in my case. And so I'm not saying it's one or the other. I think it's a combination of both. But basically, what I got from the course was that there was, yeah, emotions stored in the body that I needed to release and talk about and process myself. And that is probably the first step towards then actually being able to move forward. I based it on the fact that, oh, I'm avoidant. And then also I reflected, and I was like, I'm for whatever reason, I'm making emotional decisions, and I'm rushing into these relationships rather than giving it time to unfold. If I think about the last girl that I was seeing, and that's not going to work out because she is moving back to where she comes from, which is completely fine. She wants to continue her life there. But if I think about what I did differently, I didn't rush in. I just kind of like let it be. We didn't put a label on it. Just was happy to hang out, enjoy, and like get to know each other. When I was experiencing like a bit of stress at work, and that like reduced my energy around her and made me potentially not as like affectionate as I had been on other occasions. And when she asked me about that, the old me would have just like been like, no, everything's fine, and just like, whereas on this occasion I was just like really honest. I was just like, this is how I'm feeling. Like I'm completely stressed, and it's nothing to do with you. And that actually got a much better response than I was expecting. Like, and she was just like, thanks for telling me that. Like, it's all good. And it actually led to a really nice moment. And whilst that relationship's not continuing, like, I can see from just that interaction that I think you said on our last session, like, the truth is good for everyone. And like, just being honest and saying this is where I'm at isn't something that's going to make someone go, ugh, and just like push me away. In fact, it's an opportunity for that person to show a bit of compassion. And like if they don't, then well, clearly that's a problem, and then you can use that data point to decide something else. But it actually creates that vulnerability creates an opportunity for closeness that just continue to strengthen the relationship. I'd say I'm maybe not as emotionally attached to the job as I was. I don't know if I like was one of these people that was like my job is my identity. But I did. Probably I did take a lot of pride. I'm in sales. I'm in this like key role for our business. It's LinkedIn. People ask me what I do for work. I tell them I work there, and they're like, "Wow, that's amazing! Like, what are you doing?" They're so interested. Rather than you mention a different company, they're like, "Never heard of it." Like, so obviously my ego, "Wow, this is great. Like, people think that I'm really cool because I work at LinkedIn, and so do I. I think I've gone from that to just sort of being like, it's a job. It's a good job, but also it's not like the company would, as they have done in the past, let me go tomorrow if it suited them. And whilst I'm always going to show up and try my best, it's not something that I need to be so emotionally involved in. And probably another thing was that when I stepped into the sales job, I felt like I hadn't, although I'd had sales experience, I felt like I'd never actually like done it at that level where it's like targets, big company, big expectations, and I had something to prove to myself, which I then did. I did go and hit the target and have a really successful year, but it came at a cost to my health. And I've now realized that actually, whilst it's great to have these emails and these pats on the back and money in the bank, that I really like, and I'm actually really only on that recovery. Where Deprogram has helped is just allowing me to a space to release that stress. It's given me also context in terms or perspective, I should say, because you're speaking to other people about what's going on in their lives, and there's people at different stages of life, different backgrounds, and you can just sort of like get off your high horse a little bit and just go, wow, like really empathize with the people you're on the program with and realize that in my case for work, it's like it's not that serious. You can leave tomorrow and get another job. It's just allowed me to reframe it in those ways. The relationship side of things in terms of just not rushing in, letting things unfold, not feeling like I need to be like attracted to this girl all the time and that it can ebb and flow. And there might be times where I'm just like, oh, actually, that I didn't like that. That's the next, that'll be the next step for me. The next step for me will be when I don't like something that I communicate that in a way that's like, not letting my boundaries be crossed. So I've done the honesty bit and I'm now like being vulnerable, and that's step one. And I think the next thing will be like actually if I'm with someone and something they've done is I feel unreasonable or it's just struck me the wrong way, that I'm able to have a conversation with them about that. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is probably like family and my parents, or like even below that, my mum. I wrote, sort of shared with the group that one particular moment that was really painful for me from my childhood, that I think I carried that with me. I didn't know that was in there. And when I processed that emotion and just basically just had a big cry, I actually felt, I'm pointing at my sort of right hip. Or no, actually it was from the middle, sort of like from my gut area. I felt like as I was reading that to the group, I felt like a big, just like a jolt of energy. And the next word I was going to say was going to be me just starting to cry, and like it was a huge release. And so I was obviously clearly holding on to that from like years ago. What I was then able to do when I went home recently for Christmas, and I hadn't seen my family in like I think about a year and a half. There were some emotional moments. Like there was a point where my mum did get upset about something, and it was something I had said that I felt was, I just was kind of trying to put a positive spin on things, but she took that as like, you're not listening to me and I'm feeling sad about this particular thing. And so rather than like that, let that kind of like become a thing, I just went and like sat down and sort of spoke to her, like took her by the hand. I was like, can you just tell me what's going on? And she was just like, then she shared a bit and I was like, thanks for sharing that with me. And I just kind of like reaffirmed like what I was trying to do, but that I saw it from her perspective and I loved her. And I was so happy to be home. And it was like, right, we move on. And so I think just it's another probably applying that responding, not reacting lesson to the family relationship, and particularly my relationship with my mum as well. I'm an emotional person. I get that from my parents. I get it from my mum. And so it's just like kind of learning how to handle these types of situations. And it just helped us move past something that might have become a conflict or a source of tension. And so it helped us kind of move past that a lot quicker and continue to have a nice time together. Think I'm accepting myself that and it's kind of like maybe hard to say as a man, but like I am an emotional person. That's it. Like, and it's sort of something that I always saw as a weakness. I think particularly growing up in Scotland in like, like sport environment or high school, just generally, I think our society is potentially a bit more emotionally reserved. So I would probably maybe hide that part of myself or be ashamed of it when it came out. Like getting visibly upset because like of whatever it could be, whatever it could be anything, but just like sort of trying to hide that side of me because it's not it's seen as a source of weakness and like someone would will go for that. They'll go for it. And they can make your life tough, whether it's in a sports team, school, a workplace. What I'm now accepting about myself and what I think is maybe whether it's okay to, I mean, I guess I'm an adult now. I'm in a company with a good culture and I'm in Australia where I don't think people are so judgmental and there's more of a focus on mental health and well-being and this sort of stuff's maybe more acceptable. People would maybe be more likely to do meditation or talk about the fact that they've got a therapist they go and see. Like it's kind of in the mainstream. I think we've accepted now that actually, no, this is something that we all need. So I'm now coming round as a result of the work that we've done to just go, yeah, do you know what? I'm emotional. Sometimes I just need to like say something about how I'm feeling at that point in time. If I can say it in a safe environment and to the right, let's say the right person, like maybe working with a coach, quite often I get it off my chest and I'm just like, right, okay, that's the emotional side of it. Now I can start to think about the rational reasons behind why I'm feeling this way. Because I've now accepted that, I'm going to be less likely to make rash decisions, be impulsive, and just be like, let's just take some time here to, is that really how you feel? Or actually, is this just kind of your emotional side kicking in here and taking things to extremes? But that's who I am. Like, it doesn't make me a bad person. I think I carried maybe some shame about that. Where I maybe hopefully get to is like realizing actually how that emotion is a strength. I'm big on empathy. I do care about other people. If someone has a problem like on my team at work, I'm just like, right, cool. Let's have a chat about that. I'm here for you. Let's figure out a plan together. And that could be something that actually really makes me like an asset to a business or just a good friend. But it's taken me some time to come to that realization that actually well, I'm not there yet. I still kind of hide it, but like, and I'm still a bit ashamed of it because I think it makes me like sort of like share and say things that I'm in like, I don't really feel that way, but it doesn't make me a bad person. So just accepting the emotional side of me is something that's like highly present in me and hopefully getting to a place where that is something that I view as a strength and that I'm proud of rather than feeling ashamed of. The end result and the final 2 weeks were like really, in my opinion, there's some useful stuff that you'll go through in terms of theory and learning to meditate, or in my case, like relearning to meditate and just what's going on. There were points in time where I was like, like, oh, like, okay, this is, I wasn't sure what my expectation, I didn't really have any expectation. I was like, I'm just willing to go on this journey. And there were points where I was like, okay, is this like, I wonder where this is going to land, and is this really working? And then in the final 2 weeks where we basically did the emotional processing. You know, we wrote letters to about what had happened to us, and then wrote to ourselves and our inner child. The thing that surprised me was just like I think what I described to you earlier, where I was reading my first letter about my experience of my parents' relationship and just that kind of like that release, that physical release that came from here. And maybe some people will be watching this and thinking that sounds a bit woo-woo. I agree. Like I totally agree that it sounds not possible, but I felt that. It was like this has come from deep down. It's hit me in the throat, and the next word I'm gonna say, I'm gonna start crying and I can't hold it in. And so how I felt after doing that was just like, oh, I don't think I would ever, when would I have ever sat down myself and reflected on that experience and done that and then processed that emotion without going through this program? I wouldn't have. I simply would not have. So I'd have been walking around for the rest of my life with that in my body, affecting the decisions that I'm making, holding me back. And so that was the most surprising and powerful thing about doing this work. Simple as that. Meditation, I actually found super helpful as a practice. It's something I do every day. I immediately felt better after starting to do that, and it comes in waves of like consistency. But generally, I do it once, if not twice a day. On the occasions I do it twice a day, it's very helpful. I did have a psychologist for a while, for probably a couple of years I was working with her, and she was great. I guess the thing about that is that there's obviously a lot of talking and understanding, and it's a safe space. I think it's often like a great starting point for people to go there. And if you have a great therapist, then hold on to them. I think it's a really valuable thing. One thing I was reflecting on though is that it's not really in that person's financial and business interests for you to be completely resolved, because then you would stop seeing them. And so there's something maybe, I'm not suggesting the person I was working with isn't like they've got to earn a living and they're great at what they do, but there is an element of like, well, when's the end point, and when are you sort of back on track? Whereas with this, I felt like with this program, there was like with what I described earlier about releasing emotions and processing emotions, there was better understanding because of the theory that we'd gone through as to what's going on inside the body. And then there was a release at the end of emotion that's stored in the body. And particularly around that time, I felt like a lot lighter and that I had achieved something and made progress, as opposed to just continuing to talk about it and then coming back next week for more of the same. There was a definitive end to this program with the option to then continue with some further work if you wanted to, but it wasn't like being on the kind of the hamster wheel. It was actually like, well, we've achieved what we set out to achieve now, and you can decide where you go from here. I would want them to know that you'll get out what you put in. Like if you go into the program and think that, well, this is just going to be really easy, and I'm just expecting that I'll just turn up and then not, do the work, and then I'll be resolved in my feelings, or I'll feel better. Then that's not going to be the case. You do need to turn up. It's important that even in those maybe skeptical moments, as I experienced, that you stick with it, because not until the end that you're going to get the real benefit of it. And I would recommend that you enter in with an open mind and just stick to it and do the work and do what's been asked of you. Because I can say from myself that I felt better after having done it, and I released and processed emotions that I wouldn't have done without Deprogram. And I've seen that in other people as well, the people I was on the program with as well. I saw a difference in them. And I'm thinking particularly about one person who at the start of the program was you could just see it in them, in their body language, in the color and their facial expression, how much they were carrying. And then now this person that I've known for almost a year now through the program, like they come on and they're just so much like full of color and lighter and more open and talkative. So I've not only experienced it myself in terms of the difference it made for me, but I've seen it in the people that I went through the program with as well. And I think that's super powerful, that you're not just doing this on your own with a therapist. You are part of a group, and the support that comes from that and the perspective that you can take away from those sessions is something that you can't get in any other type of setting, really. Someone in particular, someone in a male in leadership. And look, maybe this applies to women as well. But I would say to that person that if they are feeling at all like bottled up or full or stressed, it's almost guaranteed that if they haven't processed that stress, that it's not gone anywhere and it's just still stuck in their body. And the mental load of what we do is stressful, and you will create space for that by doing this work, and you will be more successful in your job. You'll be more connected to your partner, your family. You'll be a better manager because you'll be more open, and you'll just create space for yourself to process emotions and then ultimately manage the challenges of the day to day better. And particularly if it is a male, like we don't process our emotions in the same way as females do. It's potentially societally not appropriate for a man to be seen crying, but if people can often feel uncomfortable if that is the case. But if we see women crying, that's kind of just like, hey, it's okay. We show that sympathy and that empathy towards them. So this is a space to, I'm not just saying it's a space to come and have a big cry, but I'm saying it's a place, a safe place to come and talk about what's been going on for you. And actually, you might not even know what's going on for you until you've actually gone through some of the layers and then got to the heart of it, as I did. One particularly painful memory that I needed to process, and it was holding me back in a number of areas of my life. And so really, I think that how I would summarize it is that you're going to create space for yourself. You're going to create space for yourself, and you're going to feel a whole lot lighter. And you're going to be able to you give yourself a better chance of achieving your goals and performing better at work and having closer relationships by just finding out what's going on for you. To my fellow men, doing this is actually it is this word has been the media and stuff has ruined it, but you do need to be like brave and strong to do this, because what you're doing is you are putting yourself in a very uncomfortable position, and it's like going to the gym in a way, or doing a massive workout. You're taking yourself, you're putting yourself in a really uncomfortable position. But by doing that, you'll come out the other side feeling way better. And so if there was anyone that was listening to this that is another man that was just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. That's weakness, or actually completely wrong. Like you have to, it takes strength to do this. You will be stronger as a result of doing this. And so yeah, I think I'm just kind of now completely turned around in terms of yeah, getting in touch with your emotions through this work, processing emotions, finding out what's going on for you. It's just going to be way, way better. And it's actually something that takes strength to do. So if that resonates with anyone, I would encourage you to consider Deprogram and have a chat with Claire.